Man, Switch is awesome. I can't wait for the rest of these games to come out physically so I can do a video about them.
Ugh. Thanks, Super Rare.
Imagine, if you will, take yourself back to 2016. You're a casual 3DS fan just getting what you're interested in and some of the hits. Nothing too crazy.
I didn't say I wouldn't get there eventually.
Then boom! October 20th, 2016, Nintendo announces their next-gen system through a 3.5-minute first-look video. An incredible hybrid between handheld and home console showing a slew of games off, including Legend of Zelda, a new 3D Mario title, and what looks like some re-releases such as Splatoon, which would later be announced as Splatoon 2, Mario Kart, and whoa, Skyrim. And this was before, when it only been re-released a lot and not to death. Also, basketball! We were also shown the detachable controllers, the dock, a car mount that to my knowledge never actually released, and an amazing traditional looking controller, and that it would use cartridges. It was impossible not to get on the insane hype train of the system. At the time, besides some leaks and minor reports here and there was only silence and speculation until January 12th, 2017, where at an event in Japan, Nintendo gave a roughly hour-long presentation going in-depth in the hardware.
Nintendo Switch has inherited all of Nintendo's entertainment DNA, and we have packed each and every one of these features into the system.
Joy-Con.
These are the Joy-Con.
Services and discussing a slew of newly announced titles. Still waiting on Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2 in America, Nintendo. And starting the show with the Nintendo Switch will launch on March 17th, 2017 at a price of $299. It's hard to describe the general excitement around the launch of the Switch, but I think I figured it out. You see, during this time, Nintendo's home offering, the Wii U, had existed, but only managed to gather the most dedicated of Nintendo fans, and the 3DS had been becoming a bit long in the tooth, as well as not really delivering on the more hardcore experiences, even with the more powerful new 3DS line of systems. Don't get me wrong, there were definitely great games released at this time, but the primary focus of development for one of the biggest and the most cherished gaming companies is a handheld released in 2011. The time, I believe, was ripe for the core Nintendo fans, both handheld and home consoles alike, to come together with genuine excitement for something new, innovative, and at the time, utterly insane. I mean, imagine going from this to I remember at the midnight releases, everyone just smiling, talking about every little trailer, event, whatever. And these were the same people I had seen at Nintendo releases for the past few years. From the various 3DS games that I would get, to the Wii U and Amiibo releases I would go with my brother for. These truly were the hardcore of dedicated fans, and surprisingly, that was most of the people there. I've been to a goodly few console releases at this point, and I can say without a doubt that the Switch release was, for the most part, just those who were genuinely excited about the hardware and where Nintendo was going. I know that may not sound surprising, but keep in mind that the hype train for most consoles, you're going to get a slew of random people who just are there for the event or for the excitement of the system. But these genuinely were the Nintendo fans. I picked up my system with my brother along with the Pro Controller and of course, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Funnily enough, my brother and I were the only ones to get Master Editions, because we just happened to hang out at the store after the pre-order event, talking with the manager and all of the other employees. It always pays to befriend people at your local GameStop, because you never know what you're gonna get. There, we left with our bags of awesome. But that wasn't all. Nintendo had a whopping 9 other titles available at launch in the US, 5 physical at retail, and 4 digital. Even though now my Switch collection has gotten, well, a bit extensive.
What the fuck? Oh, Alex, why in the nose? Oh.
Let's take a look at the entire Switch launch lineup, which I can finally say you can own entirely physical. First, let's take a look at Super Bomberman R, and I gotta tell you, it sure is a Bomberman game. I've never played a Bomberman game before this one, and although I can't really tell you where this one stacks up in the series,
It's okay.
I can tell you that at launch, when multiplayer was lacking on the system, this was a fun game to get friends together and mess around for a while. Even though I would die almost immediately and spend the rest of the round trying to get a lucky shot to get back in the game. Other than that, the campaign is cool, and I honestly did not expect voice acting.
For I now bestow upon you an opportunity for revenge. Rise to your feet once more, 5 dastardly bombers.
Plus, Konami even updated the game with guest and unlockable characters. Look at Bomberman Belmont. It's awesome! Dude! Snipper Clips. If you haven't heard of it, Snipper Clips is a couch co-op game where you and up to 3 friends come together to cut and snip as little paperlings, paperites, paper beings, whatever, to solve puzzles and inevitably snip each other into oblivion. Even though there's not much to this game, and even less at launch before the DLC, but it was still my go-to game to show people what the Switch was all about, before it became popular. I remember showing Snipper Clips and the Switch to a coworker and her husband, and watched as their eyes almost popped out when I removed the Joy-Cons and handed them each one and told them to start solving a puzzle. Keep in mind that the last console Nintendo had of major public note was the Wii and DS over half a decade ago. And for the general public, that's where their memory of Nintendo ended. You and a friend can get through most of what Snipper Clips has to offer in a couple hours, but I will never forget how everyone I showed it to back then had the same childlike excitement over this revolutionary new system, with a super fun and easy to understand puzzle game that just screams classic Nintendo. I've heard a lot of people, both back then and less now, say that a certain game later on this list should have been the Switch's pack-in title. Personally, I think Snipper Clips would have been a perfect fit, and even though by all accounts it was a hit, selling over 350,000 copies, I can't help but wish more people get the chance to try this one out. Up next, we have I Am Setsuna, one of my favorite JRPGs from one of my favorite developers. Originally released in 2016 for the PS4, I remember everyone at the time talking about how Setsuna was his comfort food to fans of the late 90s to early 2000s JRPGs, and boy did it deliver. The primary story is a simple one. You play as a mercenary, Endir, tasked with assassinating Setsuna, but who soon decides to escort her to be sacrificed in a long tradition of appeasing the demons for another few years of peace. You, of course, meet a cast of characters that become your party members and make your way through a great, but sometimes predictable story with combat ripped right from Chrono Trigger. The story doesn't really take away from the game, though. I Am Setsuna may not be perfect, but to me it's perfect for what it is. A relatively short JRPG that tells a wonderfully somber story through beautiful, snowy, and dismal in the best way landscapes, with an all-piano score by, and I'm gonna butcher this here, Tomoki Miyoshi, that perfectly fits the somber tone and truly transcends the game so much that I still listen to it today. If you like JRPGs at all, I would highly recommend giving this one a chance. It truly is, I believe, one of the best on the system. Shovel Knight is freaking awesome. Truly one of the best games, being inspired by classic late 80s and early 90s platformers with modern comforts thrown in. And the Switch launched with a brand new Spectre of Torment campaign, as well as the ability to purchase the campaigns individually from now on. Now, I love Shovel Knight. The uniquely themed levels, and bosses, super tight controls, and platforming, and the music. Oh my god, the music. Absolutely fantastic. But unfortunately, that's where my love for the series has always been, and I will debate that this is a series of games under one banner and not one experience. It's on the box. I could never really get into any of the other games. Plague of Shadows was okay, but in no way grabbed me like the original Shovel of Hope campaign did. But as I sat down to record footage for this video, I started to really appreciate Spectre of Torment. Jake Kaufman's music, both remixed and new, does a really great job of giving you the more macabre and almost Castlevania perspective of our heartbroken protagonist. And I gotta say, going from Shovel Knight to Spectre's campaign, you can really see how much the team at Yacht Club Games has grown. There's just a fluidness in the animation that to me is on a whole other level, making this some of the best pixel art and animation I've ever seen. If I didn't find the controls a little too frustrating at times, I think this might take the original Shovel of Hope's place as the best in the series, but I can admit that has more to do with me being bad at video games than the actual controls themselves. Fast RMX! Anyone who knows me and my personal taste in games knows that I don't really care for racing games, with very few exceptions. And trust me, I've played a ton. Especially as two of my fellow social nerds are huge racing fans and have talked with me over and over about Fast RMX and how great it is. I can say that if I was a fan, especially of games like F-Zero and other fast racing games I'm sure that exist, I would be losing my mind at this game. The graphics are genuinely impressive for the system and do an amazing job of immersing you in the speed. But as you can see by the footage here, I just can't do racing games. I'm no way proficient in them, and most of the time just end up crashing. But I do see the quality of this one. And with a few words on the subject, here's the Alexes.
What do you call it? Yeah, so it's called Fast RMX because it's called Fast Racing Neo, which is a word on F-Zero, but he doesn't know that, so he's just gonna be anyway. So you switch colors, and then that instead of filling up your...
At this point, I'd like to let you know that the launch lineup can be split into two categories of games. Ones that play normally and ones that, well...
Milk! Look at your hands as you milk.
don't. Skylanders. I'm upset I had to play this game, even for the time I did to record footage and form an opinion. Look, the only Toys to Life game I remotely cared about was LEGO Dimension, and that was because of building Legos with my brother and playing the tons of properties that anyone could be interested in. Skylanders is just at most a serviceable Diablo clone with ugly figures and a few mini-games. And although Imaginators does add a surprisingly in-depth character customization with a ton of unlockable gear, but it unfortunately gets hindered by all the microtransactions and the fact that you can't rewrite your character crystal, forcing you to buy more real-life crystals if you mess up your character type. Look, if Skylanders is your thing, cool. I do understand that this is more of a children's game, but I don't like Skylanders. 1-2 Switch is a collection of mini-games that people screamed on the internet should have been the Switch's pack-in title. They all range from fine to not great. It's really more of a way too expensive purchasable tech demo for the Joy-Cons as a whole. That's not to say there's no fun to be had here, but after about one time through, to me the only one remotely worth trying again is Quick Draw, which would explain why this is the game most popular at events when Nintendo was demoing the game back in 2017. At the end of the day, 1-2 Switch did what it needed to do for Nintendo. It got people to really understand the intricacies of their new controller. And hey, once in a blue moon, it's inoffensive, bland, and can be minorly enjoyable. Much like this glass of plain milk. Last, but certainly not least, we look at Too Many was the Switch's only launch title. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Truly, I don't know if I have the words to fully express what this title means to me and to Nintendo fans at launch, but here it goes. At E3 2014, EJ Aonuma hosted a 3-minute video discussing the focus on the latest in the Legend of Zelda series, claiming that the original NES Zelda would play a key inspiration, followed by a roughly 40-second trailer that blew audiences away.
I think that one convention we can keep, right?
Gone was the conventional Link of past games, but one that seemed as mysterious as this new world. And what a world they showed. Even for such a short trailer, they still perfectly conveyed the sense of ruin and overgrowth that would stay the central theme for the setting throughout the end of development, along with new mysteries like what was this new enemy that seemed almost technological in matching with Link's new arrows. And with that, Zelda was announced with a 2015 release date. An unbelievable amount of hype followed by an even more impressive demo at the Game Awards that year, showing gameplay, new mechanics, and surprisingly few differences with the exclusion of the sailcloth.
Phew. Good to know he had the sailcloth.
And a few UI element changes from the final release, as well as Aonuma assuring both audiences and Shigeru Miyamoto that Zelda for Wii U would release next year in 2015.
Are you sure that this will be released next year?
Yes. All of the staff members are working together and doing their best. By the way, Mr. Miyamoto, how about your Star Fox title?
What? Star Fox? You're asking me that now? No worries.
Am I the only one that still finds it hilarious that Miyamoto asked, "Are you sure this is coming out next year?" And Aonuma is like, "Yeah, it's coming. Worry about your Star Fox game. We got this." Of course, though, the rest is history. Zelda for Wii U would be delayed numerous times, eventually to be re-released alongside the Nintendo Switch as the must-have title, with the Wii U version still being released, but with all gamepad functionality removed, and this seemed to me to be more of a Twilight Princess situation where Nintendo wanted to push hard with their next system, but still owed it to the fans of that previous system to place the game where it was originally intended. Let me tell you, Nintendo was banking hard on Zelda, so much so that every collector's edition came with a freaking carrying case for the system, which to me, by the way, is still the best collector's edition ever made. Adding functionality with something that can also be displayed is just perfect. when it comes to what I believe a collector for a video game would actually want out of something they're going to potentially pay over $100, if not hundreds of dollars for. However, it was completely worth the wait. Nothing compares to the first time you start the game. No menus, no options. You wake up and get treated to the best opening to a video game ever made that really instills the breadth of the world you're about to take on. And we all know at this point, right? This game is freaking perfect. The story, the music, the exploration, the combat, the characters, even the ones that aren't my favorite Rivali, are someone else's. Aside from certain performance issues in areas, and an end that's more of a playable cutscene than a fight.
But courage need not be remembered, for it is never forgotten.
Which to me were not a problem at the time and still aren't today. I loved this game so much that going back to it, I played for 10 hours of footage just to realize I didn't hit record, that I just went on and did it again, culminating in fighting Ganon again just to see if I could. I was worried about returning to Breath of the Wild because what if it didn't live up to my memories, but I'm happy to say that to me, everything about this game is still absolutely perfect. Some may call it stupid to care about a video game system this much, but the Switch and the times I had with its launch truly cemented my love of video games and the industry as a whole. I don't think I'll ever be able to recreate the feeling and the experiences the Switch gave me, but with the sequel for Breath of the Wild on the horizon and new console rumors looming, I'm still genuinely excited to see where the Switch and Nintendo as a whole go next. Oh, and Just Dance 2017. It's in the name. You literally just dance. I can't use the actual music because of copyright, so here's gameplay without the music. Thank you so much for watching. I really put a ton of myself into this video, along with my fellow social nerds, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Stay nerdy, everyone.